A lot of recruiting activity for the Texas Longhorns. A lot of recruiting activity all around the SEC. Cody, I was very interested to see just yesterday on X about how some other fan bases and some other teams are dealing with their recruiting. Here is courtesy of WSFA 12 covering Auburn. Here's Hugh Freeze discussing this current state of Auburn recruiting.
It does seem kind of strange that we're like some of the lowest range of numbers. I mean, we're like, really, really low compared to some, and I'm trying to figure that out. But I do think it'll shake out in the long run. But it is complicated and hard to sit there and feel great about. But I feel great about our relationships, and I feel great about Auburn. And I know the families know that, and I do think just after we win games this fall, which I'm confident we will, I think it'll all kind of shake itself out.
August 1 is the first date that a prospective student-athlete can receive an offer on paper. Okay, that's a big day. It's not rumor, it's not innuendo, it's not this person says this, it's an offer on paper. We're a good distance away from August the 1st, and we're a really good distance away from December.
Okay, so we're going to have another clip here from Jim Nagy, the new general manager of the Oklahoma Sooners, and of course, former executive director of the now Panini Senior Bowl. By the way, I feel like that we haven't had a conversation about that. No longer the Reese's Senior Bowl. But I think it's just such a different sort of tactic and air about Hugh Freeze there than you've ever gotten out of Steve Sarkisian when he's talking about recruiting, especially during this time of year. Have you ever heard that guy say like, I don't know what's going on. I feel good about Texas. I feel good about if we get some wins this year, the guys are going to be coming in and stuff. But yeah, it's not great from where we're currently. It's an interest. Kind of letting us behind the curtain about the fact that he doesn't right now. His plan is sort of just kind of what the plan of the fan base is. And that plan is like, I don't really know. I'm just going to trust the process that we're going to be better this year. They clearly got better talent this year, bringing Jackson Arnold, a bunch of good wide receivers via the portal and also some really good players up and coming. With that being said, with Sark and with what the fans have come to see from him, it's just sort of been like, well, even though we've gone over this now like twice on two different shows, Texas is actually ahead of where they've been in previous years as far as recruiting. There's still this kind of stomach churn from the fan base, and then the only thing that you hear from the staff, be it either from behind the scenes or from whenever Sark addresses the media, is like, "Look, we got this, man." It's just a little bit a different tack that Hugh Freeze is taking here.
Yeah, I mean it's Hugh Freeze. This is just kind of his. We know this from the SEC media calls during the season. He's just very much will just say what's ever on the front of his tongue. He doesn't really bite it very often and hold back. He just kind of will just talk. And he's got 6 commitments. We talked about in yesterday's show 2 years ago on this date. Well, not on this date, but on June 30th, the halfway point of the year, Texas had 7. So it's like they're not miles apart of where some teams have been the last couple of years that have ended successful. That class ended up for Texas third ranked overall. Auburn the last 2 years has been top 10, I think 8th overall each of the last 2 years in recruiting. I think they're just at a point right now where it's like, you got to show me. They're at the show me point. They've done well getting quarterbacks, receivers, linemen. Like they've done well the last couple of years, but now they're at the show me stage. And I think he said that, he's like, we just got to go out there and win games, and then things will close as they should for Auburn.
This video brought to you by the Man Eye Institute. Make sure and give them a call for all of your LASIK needs. Next level LASIK available. The first place in Texas that it's been available. Only the second place in the United States. You wouldn't use your grandfather's. You're not going to want to use your grandfather's old beeper, right? You're going to want a new iPhone. Like, don't use your grandfather's LASIK. Make sure and go to Man Eye Institute, 1-844-WOW-2020. See Life Better, Man Eye Institute. And also thanks again to our friends, Texas Beef Traders. We have to talk about them today because tomorrow is 4th of July. Go in there, get 10% off. Tell them that you heard about them right here on Orange Bloods Live. That's Texas Beef Traders right there in the heart of Lakeway. Our great friends, our great sponsors. Of course, the show is brought to you by the Man Eye Institute, but Texas Beef Traders still are great friends and still great helpers to us with our meat needs. All right. Let's talk next about Jim Nagy, the general manager of the Oklahoma Sooners, and what he was saying yesterday about what's going on as far as recruiting with Oklahoma so far. And this has more to do with kind of allocation of resources in the new revenue.
Value it just like we would in the National Football League, and that's where you find your value. What we saw this spring, which I think was a really good way to do it, is we graded the players on our new scale. And then when you get to OV season is when you see where you can get value, right? Because I think what's going to set the market for a lot of these players in terms of what they're being paid and what agents expect to be paid is the star system, right? I think 5 stars want to get paid like 5 stars. So when you get into the OV season, we might have the same grade on a 5-star and a guy that's a 3-star. And when you look at where they're taking their OVs to, if they're going to Ohio State and Oregon and Texas A&M, that's going to be a certain market, right?
Right.
But then if the same graded player is getting offers from some group of 5 schools, we know what direction we're probably going to go because you're looking for that value. If you look at National Football League rosters and dig back into their high school backgrounds, man, that league is littered with 2- and 3-star players.
Yes.
So they're out there.
Yes.
You know, again, it's just we need to identify those guys and trust our evaluation. So that's really not to share too much of the trade secrets there, but that's how we're going to attack it.
Okay, so look, I understand this in theory that this obviously it works. We have all the respect in the world for Jim Nagy. We always talk about how does he find the Quinn Miners of the world and the Ali Marpets of the world, and I can't, there honestly there are too many, the Cody Mocks of the world. There are too many for me to even go through and even remember with these offensive linemen that he pulls out of the South Dakota states and the whatever else. The fact is, though, that I've just read too much research from Catch about these super blue chips, these 5-star guys, about how, it feels like you really got to thread a needle to be able to find these guys at a consistent level, to be able to say, like, all right, if there's a 5-star and there's a 3-star, we have the same grade on the 3-star, and the 3-star only has, he's got San Diego State, he's got Utah State, he's got Texas State, and he's got his biggest offers from Texas Tech, right? And we have him the same as the 5-star who has taken 4 official visits, and he's gone to, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas. We're going to go after the guy that's the 3-star because he's that much cheaper. And I understand if you have the same grade on them, right? But boy, do you know what that's doing? That's saying that my evaluations are just that much better than the wisdom of the crowds. And I'm banking on that. And I just think if you bank on that, you start to get into dangerous territory because you're just in a spot where you're not always going to be able to address all of your own biases. I've been a fan of Nagy. I think he's going to do really well there. I'm not sure that this whole thing about making it the big lots of recruiting.
This is what we've talked about. This is the whole point of Nagy.
No, it hasn't, but it hasn't supposed to been for, it's not supposed to be for, it's supposed to be for filling things in. Like for Nagy, it's supposed to be, I thought it was more like transfer portal stuff. I didn't think it was during the OV season for high school athletes.
It's the both. They work together. It's the same thing. He knows where he's at. We talked about the recruiting the last 3 years yesterday with Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, A&M, and Oklahoma, and like 4 of those teams are recruiting near the same level, and there's margins to where you can show that Texas is winning the last couple of years, and Oklahoma is doing well in the second half of the season, second half of the year, recruiting and finishing, but they're recruiting at a different level of prospect. And I think to get Oklahoma back to the conversation where they're recruiting against Texas and A&M and Ohio State and these schools like this, it's going to take things like this. And this is what I've always thought was everything Nagy said in the video is exactly what I expected him to say, is exactly how I envisioned everything working. Because yes, we've talked about the transfer portal side of things, but you can't just do the transfer portal. You got to be able to do both sides of it. And I think when he's looking at his board, and I've never seen the boards, but I think when you think about a college board, and Jason posted some stuff up on his Truth and Lies this morning about how like it seems like a lot of these coaches aren't very like worried or stressed out about missing on some guys. Like, maybe Texas isn't the most worried or stressed out about potentially missing on a 5-star like like Fasusi and Decory Morris. Like it happens. And I don't think you can allow yourself. I don't think these coaches have allowed themselves, most competent ones have allowed themselves to get stressed out or to worry too much, because it's like, what a fit is. And you don't want a guy, we've heard Sark say, we don't want a guy that's he's just coming here because of the money. We want a guy that's going to come here because he wants to be here. And so that side of things, I think, opens up the door of thought of like, yeah, everyone has their own boards, and their boards aren't vertical. Their boards aren't horizontal like in the NFL, like we've heard and talked about. I think, and this is without seeing any board, there has to be like layers to it to understand where these prospects think they are versus where you have them. And Nagy, I think, talked about that perfectly in saying like, yeah, there might be guys out there that are 5 stars. It's like they're probably 3 stars. Or in the inverse, like he sees a guy that just isn't getting talked about enough because he's going to a smaller high school or he's in a state that isn't recruited as heavy, and he's looked at as a 2 or 3 star guy. And Nagy's like, no, this is a 5-star upside type of a prospect. And if you can hit on, think about this. I know we talk about the super blue chips and stuff, and Catch harps on the importance of that for winning championships and being uber successful. But to get to that level, you got to hit on 2, 3, 4 of these middling guys, or these middle to low end guys that nobody's talking about, to get you up there so that you can compete in those conversations. And you don't have to spend the top dollar to get these guys like they did with Fasusi and David Stone. And then a year later, you're talking about, hey guys, we got to take half your money because we can't afford to pay everybody. It's like, once you get to the point of you're being successful, you're winning 11, 12 games every year, I think that all becomes 10 times easier.
Well, I get it, but is it sustainable to say that that's going to be your
for 2 years? I would say you have to try it for 2 years. If it doesn't work, in the next, you look at the end of the 2026 season, you're like, all right, this talent, this roster's got a lot of, like Michael Taft. It's got a couple Michael Tafts on it. It's got a couple 2, 3 stars it's got a Tavondre Sweat that went from 275 to 365. It's got guys like this that have allowed you to take that step forward. Now you're consistently in the 5-star conversation because your roster's depth and the underbelly of it was built up from these 2 and 3 stars.